with a core part of the HR application. And just to let you know, you can enter questions for Raghavendra in the Q&A panel. Chat to all panelists. And we want to start, before we start the session, with a quick poll. And this is to ask you how much experience you have and how you're feeling today. So let me launch that poll for you. If you're watching in the streaming service, please put your answers in the comments, and give you about 20 seconds to do that. And we'll close the poll in about 3 seconds. So just to give Raghavendra a feel for the audience, it's a pretty even distribution of people, about a third who are still in school and about a third who have more than 5 years experience. So it covers a range. And it's good to see that almost everybody is doing well or doing okay. We asked that about how you're doing because we know that the stress of the pandemic, with surges coming, rising and falling, and lockdowns coming and going, can be a stressful time. So wanted to check in with you on that. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Raghavendra. Allow me to give him control of the screen.
Sure, I haven't got the control yet to share my screen.
Yeah, you're getting it right now.
All right.
Apologize.
Cool. So let me share my screen. Okay. Is my screen visible to all of you guys?
Yes, it is.
Cool. Okay. Today I'm going to show you actually about two things. Before anything else, let me introduce myself to you. Give me 1 second, please. I've kept very deep inside this slide about me. Okay. Myself, Raghavendra. Currently, I am working in one of the Fortune 100 companies, and I am working as a lead full stack development engineer. Give me one moment, guys. Just switching on the fan. Sorry about that. So currently, like I am also managing a team of 6-8 members in the company where I work, and also I am doing. I'm also active part of development group in the team, and I have conducted multiple trainings across various platforms, starting from Simplilearn, Upgrad, Newton School, Great Learning, EroWired, and other tech lines. And my rating till date predominantly have been on the higher side. So I'm also part of this Simplilearn, where I take a lot of phases, like phase 1 to phase 5, all the phases I take sessions. And today I'll be taking you through actual kind of walkthrough of how things works in Simplilearn. Okay, that's the agenda for today, and I will show you what is LMS, and I'll show you the structure and everything. And finally, I'll be taking you through the one of the demo where I'll be showing you actual coding, what I'm going to do in the class, which I built for the past half an hour. I was sitting to write the entire code, and I've written some piece of it. I'll be showing it to you. How in the real time I'll teach it, and also so everything we're gonna see. So let me open a Notepad++. So agenda for today, I'll keeping it as I'll be talking about LMS portal. That's what you will be using through the course, wherein you will be logging into the different phases. We'll be talking about a lot of different stuff. And I'll explain this first. I'll explain the structure first, then I'll explain the project. So that's how I'll be taking it. First syllabus I'll explain, and then I'll explain all the phases. We have totally 5 phases. I'll explain one of the phase in detail. So I'll take any phase, maybe one or two or three. Phase in detail, and I'll explain about the employee fetch, would say, application. It's a very simple application, but there's a lot of code written behind that. Here I'll be talking about there is a UI which I'll be showing you with Angular, and it gets the data from the backend, and I have the backend which written in Spring Boot as the layer to expose all the views. And I'll also be talking. I've used Spring Data JPA here, get the data, and I've used my SQL for database here. Okay, wherein I get all the data for my UI. Okay, this is the kind of structure I'm going to follow today. So bear with me. I have a lot of content to show it to you guys. Okay, let me log into the LMS. I'm sorry, forgot to log in. I'll log in a moment and I'll help with you. All right. So first of all, I'll be talking about this LMS thing, wherein this course is all about the full stack development, and I'll be talking through this. Here, this program contains 5 different phases. Okay, first I'll show you here, then I'll again open a notepad and explain them individually in detail. Okay, so this particular course, as first of all, we'll welcome you to the course by introducing you to the very basic concepts of full stack development. Then we'll be taking you through the OOPS and Java concepts, and also data structures and algorithms, which are extremely important for clearing the interviews. So, and also next phase would be becoming a backend expert. In this phase, we'll be covering more on the Java side, okay, wherein I would say we'll make you sure that how does things actually work. We all know Spring, we all know Spring Boot, we all know Spring MVC stuff like that. Those are the buzzwords people generally use it, okay. And how do they really work under the hood, okay? That's where these sessions, like this phase, will be very helpful for you guys, okay. And also we have the frameworks wherein we'll be learning about all the frameworks, and then we have front end and the DevOps cycle, okay, life cycle. Why I'm showing this first before I take in detail, like detail about this courses, because this is the portal where you will have most of the information stacked up. This would be your single source of truth, okay, for you guys to refer every single time. So keep that in mind. And in this, let's say for example, if you want to go through today, we have a session on something on to understand how basic servlet works. Because if you notice, there in Spring Boot also, in Spring MVC also, we use a term called as dispatcher servlet. Again, that's a servlet. So we need to know that basic understanding of how servlet works. Then only we can make sense of, okay, if I say front controller or dispatcher servlet, how it works, then only we'll get more control on it, right? So that's what I'm going to tell you. So this course will be actually taking about. So after now you these all the UI stuff, now I'll take you to the individual details of this particular course, okay? One second, let me open that for you. Right. So like I shown already, there will be 5 different phases. In the phase 1, we have these many lessons. We'll be taking you to the Java deep dive, and we'll be talking about building blocks, and we'll be making sure that you are now good enough to understand structures in algorithm, okay? So maybe my voice is not audible. I think you have to change your speaker, I guess. This man, other people are able to hear me, I guess, right? Stuart, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'll proceed further. Okay, I think one guy has a problem in his voice, I guess, like speakers. I asked him to check it out. Okay, in the phase two, we have we'll be going. I'll be taking you through this. Okay, all these phases I also teach. So that's the reason I know more in depth about this. I'll show you one example also how this would be. In the second phase, basically I'll be talking about how to develop web pages using servlets. Is introduction I'll be giving it to you. Then after learning that, I'll be taking you through the databases wherein how to use JDBC, because to understand JPA and Hibernates, it's extremely important for us to understand how JDBC works, because Hibernates is a framework which built on top of this kind of JDBC, because whatever JDBC does operation directly through the backend and connects Java, that's the inspiration for the Hibernates to come in. Hibernate is just a layer wherein it just talks with multiple databases with its own configuration. So it becomes extremely useful and important for a developer to understand what JDB is all about. So I'll be showing this example for you guys in the with the help of servlets as well as JSP. Okay, and then I'll be moving on. So for every lesson, we will have weekly practice. I would say projects. Okay, I'll be giving you projects, and after that, every single phase end, I'll be giving you, or me or whatever whomsoever takes up, will be giving you one project. Okay, for example, if this is the project for the phase two, so that you guys will understand the it's kind of, you learned all the blocks, now you club that and make a building. Okay, you set the basement, you know all the bricks where to keep, now you keep everything in right places and make a building out of it. That's where phase two come, like this project comes in. So I will especially in my classes, like I'll keep this in mind all the time. Whatever is required, I will definitely cover in this phase throughout, and make sure the student is able to pick up those knowledge and implement in here. Okay, then comes to phase three. I'll be taking you through detail about this or the other one. Okay, and in this one we'll be learning about frameworks like basic Spring framework, and it's done. And we have Spring MVC, we have Spring Boot, we have, and also we'll be learning about JUnit, and we'll be talking about then microservices, and I'll be giving introduction about microservices, Kafka, and also majority components of along the website like microservices, right? Because today world is all about microservices. You need to understand that how architecture works, what things goes in here, right? So that's where things this becomes very important. All right, then comes the phase four. In the phase four, what we have, we'll be creating the front end application. And again, in this one, we'll be using the technology called as Angular. Okay, again, some people are debatable that, so why are we going to learn? So in this one, basically we'll be learning about how this entire Angular things works. Okay, we'll be doing understanding. I'll be first of all taking you through JavaScript, HTML, and then I'll be taking you through the Angular, because those basics are really important to understand the framework. Then at last, we'll be making you like well versed with the application, right? So I mean to say this DevOps thing here, entire DevOps, starting from Amazon web services, it can be Docker, it can be Kubernetes, all those like knowledge will be taught here, right? So by looking at this, you'll come to know the structure how it would look like. Okay, now if I speak about any one course in detail, right? Let's take, sorry, phase three. You have seen this phase three, right? This will then elaborate more what I'm going to teach in this phase three in actual classes. In this phase three, I'll be talking about first about how this Spring architecture would look like, what are containers, how JDBC framework would look like, how are we replacing it with Spring MVC, Spring with the help of Spring, with the help of course with Hibernates, which we already learned in the previous phase. Then I'll be introducing you to how Spring Boot works, what difference between them, and how can we handle exception in this Spring Boot, and building RESTful web services. And then going forward from here onwards, mostly concept on the microservices. What is Swagger? How Apache Kafka works? How can we leverage that in the microservices? And all those things. So we will be learning overall the entire stack about how these microservices work, in what components we do need for the lot of different pieces to come in. Okay, we'll be learning about this in this detail in lesson 2. Okay, this completes actually kind of entire Spring Boot introduction. Then its development is not just about coding, it's also about in unit testing, not complete testing, unit testing. Developer responsibility is all about how like good is your code. Okay, how error free your code is, how can we verify that with the help of unit test cases. So we'll be learning entire week or entire day about JUnit, because it will be 4-hour classes on a weekend, so on a Saturday and Sunday we'll be taking you through this entire JUnit 5, and I'll be giving you mostly all the different ways of writing unit test cases. Then going forward, we'll be learning about the microservices using Spring Boot. And also I'll be teaching you guys Spring security. I'll be showing you step by step how can you leverage the Spring security, right? And along with this, you will do one phase end project which will complete your knowledge, right? So you'll be building one website which will kind of make a cherry on top of a cake kind of a thing, which will help you to build the entire knowledge whatever you learned and end result. So I'll be giving you enough hints and enough architecture help here. I'll be mostly giving you the skeleton where you have to just fill in details how to do that. I'll not spoon feed everything for sure. I'll be at least giving you skeleton how to do this, because I've already taught you before this all the other topics. I will be giving you knowledge mostly on how to build on top of it. Okay, that's what one detailed phase discussion. That's what we saw here. Actually, I explained to you guys about this course 4, which we are seeing it here as implementing frameworks using the DevOps way. Okay, this is all about the structure, how it looks like. Okay, now I will be showing you guys one example of how this, you can consider it as this a combination of phase 4 and phase 5, or a capstone project. Okay, in capstone project what we'll do is we will be using all the knowledge of front end, back end, everything, and we'll put it in one place. Okay, now this is what I'm going to build now. Okay, I'll show you how I built this. First of all, we need to write our, the step 1 is we need to build our Spring Boot application. That's what I've done here. Look at this. I have actually have this employee controller here. Okay, so first of all, your everything starts from the, okay, let's go from entity. I have entity called as employee. Entity in the Java side is equivalent to table in the backend. Okay, if you give this, and if I start the application, Spring Boot automatically creates a new table for us. Okay, you can ask me how. How in the sense, if I open this, here I have all the configurations. If you see, this is the URL database I'm giving, this is the credentials I'm giving, and these are the, I would say, formatting things I'm given here. Okay, by the presence of an entity, the moment I start the application, Spring Boot will create this table inside this database, that is SimEmpDB. Okay, so I'll just show you once. Okay, I'll close it, open one more time. I'll just say connect root at localhost to databases, use sim underscore emp underscore db. Okay, show tables. If you see, I have two different tables because I have an employee entity and also I have a student entity. Okay, That's why I have given here employee table here. This automatically got created by the Spring Boot for us because we have given the configuration here. Okay, this is my database information. You take care of creating. Why? I have a DDL auto configuration, that is update. Every single time I stop and start the application, let's say there is no table, it will create everything. Let's say there is a modification in table, it updates rather than recreating. So this configuration is again a big discussion. We can take it up in the actual, I would say the classes. But for the sake of demo, I'll proceed further. So here we have this configuration. With the help of this, these tables are created. I will say describe employee. If you see, I have ID, email ID, first name and last name. These are matching for this employee table. Okay. It automatically converts and puts underscore after every word because it identifies N is capital and we have a separate word coming up. It separates them and creates a two different words and makes it like joins with them with an underscore. That's how this looks. Okay. That's how the connection between the employee table in the backend and employee class in the Spring Boot application would look like. Now, on top of this, we'll build the repository. Okay. Now, if you ask this, what is this repository all about? This repository actually helps us. Let's say whatever default operations we have, maybe get, I would say get all employees, get employee by like we actually have basic information whatever a repository gives. Find all, get all, delete, save, update. That's all. If I want to write my own custom methods, then this link provides us the way to create them. And this is one such example to create them. Okay, there is, let's say as an user I want to search an employee by the first name. How can I do that? Just provide this information. That's it. Okay. And if I say get find by email ID, okay, this is actually not present, but I want to get this as a uh, separate method. If I want that, how can I fetch it? I can definitely fetch it here. So this is how you can write your own custom methods in the repository, right, on top of whatever methods we have. Now I'll move on to employee service IMPL. Okay, this is implementation of employee service. Okay, here I have mentioned some of the methods. I tried to make all CRUD operations here. I have one create method, that's save employee, which will take a employee object and saves it. And I have four methods which will talk about getting all the employees, employee by full name. That is what I've given in my case here, the repository. Okay, and other two we have is get employee by email ID, and the last one is by actual ID, right? These are the four read operations I'll be having in the employee service, and I have other two methods called as update and delete methods. Okay, so these are the five. Like I try to cover all CRUD operations so that you will feel that this session is not just about a marketing webinar. This would look like more of a knowledgeable session. What I'm going to teach in class regularly, I'm going to telling you guys. Okay, so this is the service, and for the same thing I've written all the implementation over here. Okay, how do I save an employee? It's very simple, by using the repository, and I'm saving it here. And also I have get employees, wherein I just write find all, get all the employees, and I have get by ID, get by name, like that. This implementation I've written, we will discuss in actual classes when we have. So, and then moving on, I have the employee controller. Here are the ones where I've exposed the contents to the outside world, right? So, okay. So, and I have the post mapping here, which is used to save the employee. I have get mapping here to get all the employees. I have get by ID here to get all the employees by ID. I have employees by email ID, search the employees by first name and last name, ID. I have every possible thing, whatever required for a CRUD operation. I have exposed the methods, right? So now putting all these things, let's test the backend is working fine or not. Okay, that's first thing. List
Can
of
I check,
employees.
Raghavendra, can I check one thing? We had a question. Which file are you into which file are you entering the DB configuration details? Somebody
I'm
want a
entering in
clarification on
the
that?
application dot properties file.
Thank
This is
you.
the file where you enter all the configurations, which database, what's the username, what's the password, and everything will be putting in this file called as application properties in the Spring Boot project. All right. So if you see this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 employees. Okay. Now I have a repetition here. We'll come to that a little later. I have purposefully made this to delete this later. Now let's say I want to search by ID. I shall say it as 3. See, it gives me the output. Now I want to search by, I would say, what other things I have. I have by email. Let's see that. Email. Let me put it in the other tab and get all the employees list. I will say Matthew.Aiden. I'll just put it in here. Sorry. And just a second. Past. I copied and I say email slash email ID I'll be giving here. Look at this. I got the email address also with the help of I exposed an API, and I have a search also. I can pass first name and last name over here. And the first name, how do you do that is first you have to put question mark first name equals to, I would say, Rishabh, and last name is equals to, and like this. Do I have those entries here? First name is search. Okay, this looks like, no, this is out. Search the question mark first name. What it is saying? Anyway, so even though it gives error, it's okay. But my point here is I just maybe some problem might be there. I'm really not sure. We can debug it some other day. My point is I want to show all details to you. That's why I tried to integrate many things here. Maybe yeah, it works. Maybe I've given some ROM data in the earlier one. Here I've given the proper data. So that's how, this is how we can work out the different APIs, whatever like exposed here, and delete and other stuff we can't test here. We used to have used Postman. Now we have made the entire backend ready. The backend is there. I have all the APIs exposed. Let me list some of them so that you'll have the idea. APIs, or I would say endpoints exposed are, this is the first name and last name. This is the email ID. This is by request. Params, first name, last name, and this is of course with email ID. And then you obviously have all the employees. List all the employees, and you also have employees by ID. Let's say all EMPs and by ID, and request params here and email ID goes on like this. I've exposed some of the APIs which we can leverage. Now you've seen a dummy API which are written in the backend, and now I'm utilizing it. Now, how can I use it in the front end? Okay, so I'll show that to you guys. Now I've written the Angular application for the same. Okay, because of time constraint, I could not like do a lot of styling here, but the purpose is served. I'll show you how. I'll explain the entire project what I've done here. I have certain components called home, employee, and page not found, and I could not build anything on the other two. But employee component is full of data. Okay, how? I have an employee component in like view here. Okay, this is been having information about employee. I have a table where This contains information about employee data. Okay, this is how a page looks like. If I refresh, we won't have anything. It's just an empty page with load employees button. Okay, that's all. So I have used some structural directives to get those data here, and for the same in the TS file, I have an employees object which will be loaded or which will be filled the moment I click on this button called as show button. Okay, here also I have implemented smartly using ngIf directive. If the length is greater than 0, only then show the table. Otherwise, show the button. The button is here. Okay, that's what I've done in your implementation. That's why you have the saying this load employees. This is again use of template variable concept. I used here ng for directive, and I also used your template variables and with ngls and other concept. Okay, and also interpolation, this one. So this is how I have done the structure this employee page where we can see the data. And also I have written a service where it gets the content from backend, and that service is here. Here we have this load employees. This employees is a employee service is a class where this contains the method which will get the data from the backend. Okay, if you notice, I have this I would say the get all employees. This is the method I'm using here. So it will the same data whatever I have in this URL, I'll be getting in the UI. How? First data is in the, let me show it to you. Select star from employee. Look at that. I have all the data here, and same thing is coming over here. Just happened. Okay, by mistake it got stopped for some reason. Let me start it. It is too difficult to explain everything in like half an hour or sometime, but still I'm trying my best. You will be learning same experience step by step with all details in the classes. Okay, I'll be doing sharing with you in a while how the structure goes also. This data, if I open here, if I click load employees, you get here. This is how this smooth it looks here, right? It's an effort to build this end to end. That is what we're going to learn in this entire course, right? So we'll be building this stuff is an effort. It takes your immense amount of knowledge and dedication to learn everything piece by piece and then putting them across as a single entity. That's what we are here for. Okay, now I'll show you other two operations. Let's say I have 4. I get this employee, and 5 is also repetitive. How can I delete this? In the method to delete, and say don't you, even though you won't pass any body, does it's okay because it's delete method. Just say send. Okay, this is a problem because I am using this course problem we have. Let me start it. There is some cross origin stuff. I have to configure it. I have to include a lot of things as a separate entity here. Because of shortage of time, I skipped that. So if I now run this, this succeeded. If I go here in the backend, if I check now, that data got vanished. That's a delete operation. I have update also. Maybe I'll update the third one. How will I do that? I'll just show it to you. ID is 4. Delete the put. ID is 4. Why it is not getting? I'm not able to modify this. Body is here. I'm sorry. Let me take this data here. Where is that? This one. I'll exactly put this here and I'll modify it. I would say okay, like this. Notice here in the backend, I have this guy called as some wrong name I've given. I've given purposefully saying that I want to modify it here. I say send. It got updated. Now just check this. What got updated? these three. Okay, ignore it. So these are the things we'll be doing in classes. Okay, we'll be taking. Okay, I forgot to pass the ID. I passed it three. Oh shit, there is no five called ID called 3 or 5 here. Now it got updated. See, updated. I made a mistake that did not pass the ID over here. All these things, taking care of minute details, passing an ID is equally important, and passing right data is also equally important. How do we take care of all these things? We'll be learning in this entire journey. Okay, that is what I wanted to show you guys, this entire project. Like I already discussed, this was the agenda. I showed spoken about LMS. I have also spoken about all the phases, whatever you're going to learn in this entire like full stack courses. Each and every phase I discussed with you guys, and I also shown you how an employee fetch operation starting from backend with all CRUD operations ending up in the UI. This is what I've shown you the entire stuff so that it makes you that completeness knowledge. Okay, today I've seen something which is very beneficial. Okay, that's what we're going to do in class. Now I'll talk about some more information. After every class, we'll be sharing you this 4 links: a GitHub link mentioning where this code will be present, with my name, my repository, and a feedback link if we make any mistakes, if there is room for improvements, a Google Drive link where if we want to upload a file which we can't upload in GitHub, and a community link. Let's say this class happens on the only in the weekend. What if I get doubts on the weekdays? You can always come and raise your concern in the community, and we're always here to help you guys. That's what will kind of complete the knowledge sharing session with you guys. So this is how a day-to-day classes will be going through. Okay, I will show one small demo of how I'll take the classes. For example, let's say I'll be recently I wrapped up one of the phase, and I'll be, this is how I will actually talk about them. For example, this one. Okay, in every day what happens, what question I have got, and these are projects. In this I'll be talking about microservices. I'll be building upon different microservices and Spring Boot projects. Look at this, how many I've created. Make sure they understand what is Swagger, what is Spring Boot, what is H2, and also different way of JDBC template, Spring MVC, event handling, and also Spring security. Okay, all these things I'll be teaching in the classes. This will give you a glimpse of how a day would look like in the classes. Okay, in this one I also covered a small example of this one. This Java 8 also covered as part of this phase because I felt this is very useful. Okay, these are the topics I covered in the classes. Everything starting from an anonymous. This is an extra thing I covered because I felt it is useful as an extra thing. Okay, this is not covered in the phase. So as a developer, if I feel something needs to be added is not there in the syllabus, I'll make sure that also be added in the courses. Okay, so these are the benefits you're gonna get if you sign up to this particular course. I think I'm done from my side, Stuart. You can take it forward from here on.
Okay, thank you, Ravinda. So we're going to go to the question and answers. We have a number of questions that have come in, and some are technical and some are about the administration of the course. So just to be clear, what we've been doing today is a demonstration of the full stack Java developer program, and Raghavendra has demonstrated a sample lesson within that, and we hope in future that we'll do a couple more sample lessons over time that will show how you build out from that basic data retrieval example into a more complete application. But the actual courses that he's talking about are part of the full stack Java developer program, and we'll mention that a little bit later. We did have a question about that, where I'm just trying to see. Cyan actually is in that program. Cyan says lesson 5 is optional, and he saw that it's not covered in live classes. So how are the materials that are not covered in live classes made available to students?
And in the sense, I couldn't understand the question, Stuart. If you can repeat that.
Sure. Cyan asked a question about one of his lessons in the full stack Java developer program, which now shows up as optional. So he was curious, how do you cover material? How does the course cover material that isn't part of live classes?
See, if there is optional, again, it's up to you to choose. But if you have any questions on that, which we want you need, let's say in every phase, right? We don't have simple only one project. We will have at least 2 to 3 projects. Okay, and what we'll do is we will ask you to choose only write one. Other two are always optional. That doesn't mean that doesn't stop you to do that project also. We will make sure that we'll help you to build that project. If you have any doubts in those 2 projects, we will be giving you enough materials to work on it. And let's say even after that you're still having doubts, we'll also help you to make sure to complete the project also, if you're interested in the other one or other two. If you want to finish all the 3, you're good to go, like that.
Abhya Dunn asks, he's got a MacBook Pro M1 model.
So even in
Is
my
that
office, even I have M1 Pro, it's absolutely fine for Java development, not an issue.
okay? Perfect. And Naman asks about the class schedules. You had mentioned it's a weekend cohort usually.
Yes,
Um,
so
uh,
we'll be having on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, 4 hours each.
okay. Um, so Anamika had a technical question about the market and the state of the market. Have Angular and React.js really uprooted HTML and CSS, or do they coexist?
See, this is always a question for anyone who's starting their career in this web development, right? Do we choose React? Do we choose Angular? The question always stays upon. I would say React as a library, Angular is a framework, because React comes with very minimalistic thing. We have to build on top of it. Like let's say a routing. It's not there in React. You have to add on it. It's an advantage because if we have a free hand to choose whatever we want from which library is good. But if you need to keep on adding certain things in Angular, it's a by default option for you. Angular framework itself provides those features for you. And two-way communication or two-way binding, that is by default there in Angular. You have to build it in React. So React is also a good library, but Angular is also a very famous library, and it is supported by Google, and it is also a very strong and popular library, and you can use it without any second thought. So and
And
also in the courses, in the phase 4 of the course, I'll be first teaching you guys HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript. Only then I'll start Angular, right? That's how I take the course.
right, because they're all building blocks of the development.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, so Parna asks about sample applications on GitHub, and you had shown some of the resources. So does that include coding examples, the types of source code that you've developed in the classes and that type of thing?
See, generally, I'll not boost about my classes. In my classes, whatever I teach, I am not going to write the code pre-written. Whatever code I'm going to teach, I will write in front of you guys, everything. I will, even if I make mistakes, it's a lesson for you also and me also, right? So both I will make sure that how to start coding, and you can also code along with me if you are like able to pick up my pace. Otherwise, you can follow and watch the recording later. And after the end of every session, I will make sure whatever code I write, I will update in a GitHub, and also I'll put it in a Google Drive if it is required. That's how generally I will drive my classes.
Okay. I'm going to address a couple of questions that come in, Jayla asks, for example, how does somebody learn some basics of coding if they're not ready to take a course of this type? And I want to just mention that Simplilearn offers a number of courses, including free courses through SkillUp, which is the name of our free course program for basic self-study courses. So there are some resources there that will help you get um, a basic start in coding. But is what are the kind of prerequisites somebody needs to have in order to enroll in the full stack Java developer course?
Okay, I would see free courses are always there. Okay, even you if you go to YouTube, right, you find a bunch of videos, you have a bunch of materials to read upon. Why do we need us? That's a simple question I'll answer here, which will answer all the questions. Okay, we know the resources, we know what are there, but do we know how to take it? We don't know. That's the problem actually here we are trying to address. We will make sure that you follow a right path to assimilate those data in right sequence, in right amount. Okay, that's what this entire course drives you, and we'll make sure how to take up those things and take forward, right?
Yep.
That's what we're going to do here, and that's where these materials, this knowledge sharing, and also keep in mind, when I teach, I bring in my own experience. I'm working in one of the top tech 100 tech companies, like Fortune 100 companies. So I bring in my experience also. What problems I'm facing in my day-to-day activities, I will be keep sharing with you those. So that's the knowledge which you will get by default, because I will be teaching you the guys. I'll be taking these courses. So these are the package you get, because I'm in industry for 9 years. I know how things works. What are the things you have to focus on, where your pain points will be. I'll be telling you guys to work on them. So it's a package of things you'll be offered in this program.
Right. Um, Free courses can only take you so far. They're great for getting some kind of general idea of how things work, but if you want to go from zero to a full stack developer, um, that would be a really, really difficult path if you were trying to do it on your own. And as Raghavendra just said, you don't have to do it on your own. You can take advantage of experience of him, instructors like him, and the way we have structured this program. One of the other things that people have asked about, and I think I'll bring up this slide here. So allow me to do that. Okay. And talk a little bit about the course itself. So the full stack Java developer master's program that we've been talking about is 6 months in duration. It's 5 to 10 hours a week. It covers the courses that Raghavendra showed in the curriculum. And we designed the curriculum so that it's aligned with the needs of industry, so that when you want to go into out looking for a job, you will have a set of skills that's compatible with what employers are seeking. As he's shown you, that includes integrated labs and hands-on projects. So what he demonstrated by doing on the screen is the type of thing that you will be doing yourself to demonstrate that you have an understanding and the skills to do that. Online virtual classrooms, which will allow you to learn from the instructors and ask questions in a live environment where you have your peers to draw on as well as the instructors. And um, other than the scheduled classes, which are on a fixed schedule, you can do the work for the rest of the coursework on your own schedule as you have time to do it. So it's about a 10-hour a week commitment. It's for 6 months, and that takes you all the way through a complete set of tools, libraries, platforms. This is just a sampling of the types of things you'll learn. And at the end, you're certified by Simplilearn. You've done maybe 26 projects and labs in the course of that 6 months. You've done a capstone project, which draws together all of those skills and gives you something for your GitHub portfolio to show off to employers. And I do want to mention that these programs include job assistance for learners in India and the United States. So we have different policies for different regions. In the United States, it's a job assistance program. In India, it is actually a job guarantee program through a number of our industry partners. You can learn more about that if you go, if you email askus@simplilearn.net. And I will put that in the chat. But in the meantime, just want to get a quick idea from the audience of whether this is something that interests you, that you'd like to do. And just a quick poll. As I go into the chat, I will put in okay. Put the email address into the chat for you. And the learning counselors at askus@simplilearn.net will be able to address questions about prerequisites, about the cost of the program, about how the job assistance works, and what the different cohorts are, starting dates. And before I go on to thank you, I want to share with you the poll result. So about 75% of our audience is interested in doing this, and about 40% of you are interested in doing it within the next 90 days. So that's great news. And let me also share with you another resource, which is the Full Stack Java Developer homepage. Put that into the chat, which has additional information about the program, including information about dates and costs. And with that, I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Raghavendra. I'm going to give you the link to tomorrow's webinar if you are interested in digital marketing, or if you know someone who is. Please feel free to invite them. This will be a masterclass for digital marketers, specifically in link building for a successful digital marketing campaign. So that's another interesting technical class. And with that, we invite you to follow us on our social media channels at Simplilearn at Facebook and Twitter, Simplilearn on LinkedIn. And again, please do email askus@simplilearn.net if you're interested in finding out more about the program. And thank you, Raghavendra, very much for taking us through the LMS, the learning management system, and also for demonstrating what it looks like to take one of the projects live.
Happy to do that. Great.
Okay.
I mean, I wish you all the very best, guys. I will tell you, make good decisions. Okay. When I was out of college, right, I struggled a lot to get this, whatever I just educated you just now in the past 1 hour. Those were the things which was now you guys are privileged to have it. So make good use of it. And I wish you all the very best. See you out there. Bye, guys.
Right. And that concludes our event for today.
Thank you.